to our videos. I'll have my newsroom colleagues joining me today to talk about the stories that got you talking. Now, in world news, unrest continues to grip Hong Kong as the leader Carrie Lam said violent protests will push city down the path of no return. She added the Asian financial hub's recovery from anti-government protests could take a long time. More than 200 flights have been cancelled after protests shut down the Hong Kong airport yesterday, but operations have resumed early this morning. Protesters have said they plan to return to the airport later in the day to resume their demonstrations. Now, here's a short clip of the press conference with Carrie Lam.
In terms of withdrawing the bill, using this specific term which the protesters have called for, do you, as Hong Kong's leader, have the autonomy to decide to withdraw the bill? Yes or no? Or is this something that Beijing has to approve as well? In other words, have your hands been tied by Beijing in not allowing the bill to be withdrawn?
Well, actually, this question has been answered on previous occasions.
But you've evaded the question
Number one,
on numerous occasions.
As we have all heard from the spokesman of the Hong Kong and Macau Affairs Office, the central government is still confident that I myself, as the government of the Hong Kong SAR, together with the police force, that we are still capable of resolving this crisis.
Do you have the autonomy or not to withdraw the extradition bill, please?
The second point I want to make.
Could you answer that specific question?
In response to the various demands that we have heard, we have considered all factors and came up with a response that we have rehearsed time and again over the last 2 months. Thank you very much.
Do you have the autonomy or not to withdraw the extradition bill?
Please answer your question, please.
You have not answered the question. You've evaded the question.
Now there we have it, the press conference that Carrie Lam had. Now for the full video, you can visit our website at www.straitstimes.com. Now to tell us more about the situation in Hong Kong, I have regional correspondent Elizabeth Law with me. Welcome, Liz.
Hi, hello.
This is our second time, right? Talking about Hong Kong, I think.
Our second time together. I think my third time up here.
All right. So Liz, first of all, right, what is this path of no return that Chief Executive Carrie Lam was referring to? And really, are her hands tied, like we saw in the clip?
Right. Okay, so firstly, before I start, I think I need to give a shout out to our team on the ground.
Yep.
So we've got our Hong Kong correspondent, Claire, who was actually on that plane yesterday that got turned back. So she was meant to go back to Hong Kong and then she got sent to Guangzhou and then the plane from Guangzhou came back to Singapore. So
rerouted.
Yes, yes. So she was on that flight, and if you follow her on Twitter, you can see all her adventures about it. And right now, so since Claire is in limbo back here, we've got Yen Liang, our China correspondent, who is now on the ground, and right now, from the messages I last saw, in fact, in the airport with all the protesters. So okay, sorry for the diversion, but to get back to your question, you said what is this point of no return?
Path of no return.
Path of no return. Very dramatic, very doomsday sort of phrase. But Carrie Lam also used another phrase today that was slightly dramatic, which is the abyss. In Cantonese, she said, 粉身碎骨的深淵.
Okay,
which is,
what does that
so
mean?
it's like, so 粉身碎骨, when you translate it, it basically means that an abyss so deep that it completely crushes your bones into little pieces until it is powder.
Oh.
So it is really, really dramatic. It's like basically like the point of no return beyond no return. Okay, so what is she actually saying? I mean, I can't read her mind because I'm a journalist, I'm not a clairvoyant. But usually when governments or administrations use this phrase, it's a warning to people as well that you could come to the time where society will have chaos, you have a struggling economy, and society is split to a point beyond repair, then people can no longer come together and have reasonable discussions. I think the airport is the largest disruption to the economy so far. It is quite serious. We've seen a letter yesterday from the former chairman of Wheelock Holdings. Wheelock, like the company that owns Wheelock Place.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so super rich. And basically he claims that since these protests have started, he has lost $1 billion off his personal net worth.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so I mean, so there's that. And then, sorry, to get back to your question, you asked about her hands being tied.
Is it really the case?
The short answer to that is I mean, you saw the clip.
Yeah.
Did she answer the question?
She evaded, right?
Right.
Yeah, and that is what a lot of the reporters on ground also have been saying. Hey, you're evading the question. You're not answering the question.
Yes.
Please answer the question.
Yes. So I mean, the short answer to that, which obviously she cannot say, is yes.
Yeah.
Because ultimately, Hong Kong is a part of China. She is still accountable to Beijing because Hong Kong, they ultimately have the ultimate administrative right to Hong Kong. So the short answer to that is yes.
Yeah. And Liz, talking about China, so it seems China is losing patience.
Yeah.
And it's losing patience so much faster than during the umbrella movement previously. Why is this so?
Well, the fact is that during the umbrella movement, if I can help viewers to remember a bit, was that at the time it was basically a lot of people sat down on main thoroughfares in Admiralty. They set up camps there, they were living there, and they were asking for electoral reforms. That was it. It was mostly concentrated to one part. There was small various encampments in like Mong Kok and Tsim Sha Tsui, but that was about it. Whereas for this, how many weeks has it been? 10 weeks. Okay. The Occupy movement was a little bit longer, but every weekend it is just growing in scale. First you have it in Admiralty, and then after that you have it in the west of Hong Kong Island, and then you have it in Tsim Sha Tsui, and then suddenly you're seeing different parts. You have it in like the north, in Yuen Long, you have it in New Territories. It's just all over. Hong Kong is, number one, is more widespread. Number two is the fact, we can't deny the fact that violence is escalating from both sides. The protesters, they're throwing more things now. I personally had some rocks whiz past my head.
You were saying that,
I have seen how some of them have catapults, really makeshift ones, but still it is quite dangerous. Police, on the other hand, firing tear gas non-stop. Several times I've been on the ground, and you can just hear them firing rounds and rounds of it. It's not like bum, wait, charge forward, bum, bum, bum. It's just like bum, bum. It just keeps going on and on. So these things really do hurt people. So the violence has been escalating on both sides, and I suppose the fact is that it is more. China is losing patience because this is a lot more targeted against China now.
Right.
You have people saying that Hong Kong is not part of China during the protests. You have people who are, the whole anti-extradition bill, when you translate it into Cantonese, it is 反送中条例, which in fact actually means anti-extradition to China bill. So it's not that they were not okay with having an extradition bill, but the fact that the bill had the clause that say you can also be extradited to China, that is the problem.
Right.
So it is a lot more. It is a lot more overt now. When you're on the ground, you also see a lot more pictures of like things against the CCP, against China. So it is, and obviously Beijing doesn't like it. Plus, not to forget that President Xi is a much more authoritative figure now than he was back in 2014. He really is trying to assert his power. So we are where we are now, and I suppose that which leads us to where we were yesterday, where the Hong Kong Macau Affairs Office used the T word. Terrorism.
Terrorism, right?
So that really shows how seriously they're taking it.
And Liz, let's go back to the airport situation, Hong Kong airport. And you also said that our colleague Claire also had some issues at the airport. Now, compared to previous protests at the airport, the recent incident, the one that just happened yesterday, seemed to be a lot worse. For example, there are more flights disrupted. How was this different? How come it escalated to that?
I suppose the fact is that the simple answer to it is the sheer scale of it. First, you had people in the low thousands, but now this time around, you have yesterday 5,000 people in the airport. That is plus the passengers who were trying to get in. So it was sheer pandemonium outside because traffic was at a complete gridlock. There was just people everywhere. And it just became very hard to try for passengers to try and get into the transit area. The airport security felt that they could no longer handle it, and so they were really worried in case protesters did anything silly. And I mean, there are some quarters that are suggesting this as well. Was that the government also really wanted to make a show of what could happen, but of course there is no proof that is what it is.
And Liz, in your opinion, do you think then the actions of the protesters will help them achieve their objectives. Can Hong Kong, you reckon, recover from, you know, this chaos, this unrest that has been gripping them for the past at least 10 weeks?
Honestly,
Yeah.
I don't know whether or not it will help them to achieve what they want.
Yeah.
But I think both sides have to give in a bit. Number one is that if you want dialogue, you have to. And Carrie Lam said today, I think everyone just needs to take a breather,
Yeah.
calm down, come together and have a discussion and try and rebuild society. Obviously, they've repeatedly said violence is not the option. What needs to happen from here on? I mean, if you look at the last time Hong Kong had such large-scale protests, I'm not even talking the umbrella movement, I'm talking about massive protests.
The one in 1960s, right?
Yes, in 1967 when it was about workers' rights. So basically, that really escalated, and you had people going and patrol bombing various areas, and that is what really lost public support. So hopefully this doesn't get to that. But what happened after that, which is very important. The colonial government then, at the time, they launched a committee of inquiry.
Yeah.
So what is different between a COI, which we are fairly familiar with here in Singapore, and what they are suggesting now, which is having the Independent Police Complaints Commission look into the incidents, is that the IPCC does not have the power to summon witnesses.
Right.
Subpoena people, whereas a COI can.
Yeah.
Yes. So basically the British government had that, and then based on the COI, they then introduced a whole raft of new measures to help improve Hong Kongers' lives. And so hopefully the government would do that, but why they have consistently refused an independent inquiry partially is because the police associations, there are 4 major police unions that are opposed towards it.
Right.
So hopefully both sides will calm down and then maybe come towards a discussion.
To a certain consensus of sorts. Once again, thank you so much, Liz, for coming into the show to tell us more a bit about the situation in Hong Kong, and especially following Carrie Lam's press conference and really the almost hyperbolic kind of terms that she's been using, to explain the situation there. Now, for more on Hong Kong, please, you can follow our correspondents, Claire as well as Liz, on their Twitter handles. They will be updating all the situation that is happening right there in Hong Kong. And of course, for more stories and videos on Hong Kong, you can also visit our website at www.straitstimes.com. Once again, thank you, Liz.
Thanks.